A mom and her boyfriend faced a judge. They're under arrest after her 2-year-old was beaten to death. Michelle Choi has more on what we learned in court. And Michelle, this is just a heartbreaking story.
Guys, this is a tough one to hear. You just heard for this little boy, Tevin Jefferson, or TJ. He was just 2 years old. TJ died from his injuries shortly after arriving at the hospital. Harris County Sheriff's Office detectives say his mom and her boyfriend came up with a fake story to cover up his death.
Johnson stated he struck TJ approximately 5 times.
26-year-old Johvonte Johnson stood before a judge last night, accused of beating little TJ to death. He was seen shaking his head throughout the hearing. Prosecutors say after initially denying any involvement, Johnson later admitted to deputies he hit TJ several times with his hand during potty training, and that later TJ knocked out after he fell and hit his head on the toilet. We didn't see his girlfriend, TJ's mom, 23-year-old Darrielle Williams, appear, but her charges were read in court too. She's accused of failing to protect him. Prosecutors say she took TJ to the hospital and that she and Johnson made up a story about TJ falling in the bathtub. Court documents say CPS had previously investigated Johnson for abusing TJ once before, but Williams still left her son in her boyfriend's care. Both Johnson and Williams' bond has been set at $50,000 each. Their next court appearance is set for tomorrow morning. Guys.
Tonight, family members are demanding justice for this little boy. His name is Tevin Jefferson, but his family calls him TJ. Investigators say he was beaten to death by his mother's boyfriend, who is charged with murder tonight.
TJ's mother is also charged, accused of failing to protect her son and then trying to cover up what her boyfriend did. Matt Doherty has the story tonight, and we'd like to warn you folks, some of the details are disturbing.
Defendant Johvonte Johnson shakes his head as prosecutors describe what they say he did to his girlfriend's 2-year-old son earlier this week.
Johnson had whipped TJ last night while potty training was going on, and then had also whipped TJ this afternoon after TJ had defecated on himself.
Prosecutors say on Tuesday, 2-year-old Tevin Jefferson was with Johnson at the America's Best Value Inn. They say later that day, TJ showed up at the hospital, bruised, beaten, and dead.
He could not explain why it was that he waited over an hour to take TJ to get medical assistance after he observed him in need.
Prosecutors say TJ's mother, 23-year-old Darrielle Williams, lied to authorities at first, but later confessed TJ was beaten by her boyfriend, who allegedly hit the boy several times before his head struck a toilet. In an autopsy report today, forensic experts say the boy suffered blunt force trauma to the torso, internal bleeding, neck compressions, and fractured ribs in various stages of healing. We spoke with TJ's grandmother from her home in Waxahachie earlier today. She says Child Protective Services were already investigating the family. She says she saw signs of abuse when TJ was staying with her last year.
I was playing with TJ and I tickled his feet. And at the bottom of his feet, when I tickled his feet, I tapped him on his feet, like just a little tap, and that baby cringed. He cringed so hard, like, what, like somebody help. And when his daddy walked through that door, he just ran to his daddy and held on to his daddy for dear life. And I told my son then, that baby's being mistreated, but we couldn't prove it. There was nothing we could do to prove it.
LaTanya Guilford says she's seen a trend among child deaths in recent years and is warning parents to be careful about who they let around their children.
A lot of these innocent children are losing their life to these step-parents, not to the actual parent, to the step-parent.
Matt Doherty, KHOU 11 News.
I can't even wrap my head around this, Mia. There's a long list of these kinds of stories that we've been doing over the years.
Such heinous accusations each and every time. And once again, some poor, innocent baby.
Yeah.
God bless his little soul.
Go get it. He was so sweet. All he wanted was love. You can see it all on him. All he wanted was you to love him.
Amanda Thomas describing 2-year-old baby Tevin Jefferson, known as TJ.
I always had TJ. Always. I got his first steps. I got everything. I always had TJ.
Now her brother Johvonte Johnson could be facing a murder charge, and the child's mother Darrielle Williams is facing a charge of injury to a child with serious bodily injury after Harris County deputies say the two created a story to cover up the child's death. Deputies say Johnson later confessed to, quote, whipping TJ multiple times on the back while potty training him, and on the last strike, it caused TJ to hit his head on the toilet. Thomas claims others tried to report the alleged abuse before this.
And my brother and I would literally get into physical fights over this. Called the police on him multiple times, like this isn't something that just happened. And so to hear about this, I feel freaking terrible because that is my brother.
It shouldn't have never happened.
According to CPS Houston, its agency has not seen an increase in child abuse cases. In a statement sent to ABC 13, it reads, Child Protective Services saw a reduction in reports to the Texas Abuse Hotline in the spring of 2020, but by the fall, the number of calls to the hotline returned to historically average levels. At Children for Tomorrow, the nonprofit has experienced double the amount of calls reporting child abuse during the pandemic.
For them to get into the court system, it takes a lot longer. Like, I've worked with somebody since March of last year, and they're just now being able to get an assessment. So, it's almost a year.
The founder says there are resources and shelters that will help parents to get their children out of a toxic environment. But she says that there still needs to be more training and awareness on how to report psychological, physical, and sexual child abuse.
This is a generational cycle. And if we can stop this cycle, we would have healthy children.